I'm autistic, and this book saved my life. In this video, I'm going to tell you how it did that and share 5 key takeaways. And after you're done watching, you'll be grabbing your own copy because I promise this book will change your life, especially if you're a high-masking autistic. So this was me before I got this book. And this was me after the transformation. Really? Are you seriously going to keep showing this part? Can we fast forward this a little bit? I mean, seriously. Let's get to the impressive part, please. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, maybe it wasn't exactly like that transformation, but don't underestimate what this book did and how it changed my life. Honestly, I wouldn't be here right now making videos for this channel if it wasn't for this book. And here's why. When I first got diagnosed as autistic, I had millions of questions, but no answers really. Academics, doctors, and therapists just didn't seem to get it. Every time I sought help, people who were supposed to help me just made me feel more alone and isolated because they weren't autistic, and they definitely didn't understand what it felt like to be autistic. When you're at that stage, it's hard. You don't want to keep trying to get help, but you can't figure it out on your own. Things that once seemed simple are skills you seem to have lost. Masking is suddenly so much harder, and then it feels like the walls of the world are just crushing you. Sensory overload, meltdowns, shutdowns, exhaustion, autistic burnout. These are all the things that were happening, but I felt alone because books weren't helping. Doctors and therapists weren't helping. Traditional advice on how to get out of burnout wasn't helping. And it felt like no one understood me. Until I picked up one book. The book that saved my life. The Autistic Survival Guide to Therapy. Written by the brilliant Steph Jones. Here are 5 key takeaways. Takeaway number 1. Autism isn't something that needs to be fixed or cured. It needs to be understood. So after the doctor told me I was autistic, I sat there, completely stunned and honestly in disbelief. The next thing I remember her saying was this: "You're still the same person. You've always been autistic, and you'll always be autistic." Well, for me, it really didn't feel that way right then and there. At that moment, all I could think about was, well, isn't there some kind of medicine I can take to make this thing go away? How about we cut this little chit-chat and get down to business? How do we fix this thing? How do we fix this brain of mine? Of course, my perspective has drastically changed, but when you're sitting in the doctor's chair working through a diagnosis, I'd say it's highly unlikely you're there because things are going completely smoothly in your life. As an undiagnosed adult, you're there because your life is not going the way you thought it should go. And it's rare that someone makes you take another look at that. But Steph Jones is one of those rare people who can help you work through that thinking. And she's completely right. Autism isn't something that needs to get fixed. My brain is autistic, and that's okay. What I needed was someone to remind me that it can get better when I understand my brain better. Steph writes throughout the book that autism is very misunderstood. Most of the experts, like doctors or researchers or therapists, really don't understand the autistic experience. And Steph thinks that should change. Autistic people should be the experts of their own autism. They should be believed by medical professionals and therapists when they say what they struggle with. It shouldn't be just labeled and then looked at as something to be fixed, or even worse, misdiagnosed as something else. Autism doesn't need to be fixed. It's a matter of the autistic person and the people around them getting to know what they need and how to support their needs. So there are days when I'm feeling pretty good. I'm not overstimulated and I'm navigating things out in the world like anyone else. But there are days when I'm not able to sit in my own bathroom and listen to my breathing echo off the walls without going into a tirade. I can't always predict how things will go. But as I get to understand my own needs better and my brain better, I can do more to make sure I support myself and communicate my needs. So, get to know your brain too, because as complicated as it is, it's not something that needs to be fixed. Takeaway number 2. Being autistic in today's world, and especially being a late diagnosed autistic adult, is unique and challenging, especially with common co-occurring conditions. The autistic experience is different for everyone, and what we struggle with will be different across people in the entire spectrum. It'll be different even for ourselves across different settings and contexts and stages in life. I'm pretty sure that's true for basically everyone. We feel and act differently in different contexts and times in life. But Steph writes about the many, many unique challenges of being autistic in today's world. And I related to so many of them. From feeling the need to hide from delivery people, to needing headphones to escape the sound of the fridge running, to the difficulties keeping up with the pace of conversations with people who talk so much and move so much faster in interactions than myself. I felt it all. Her anecdotes about being in the room with her horrible therapist, Veronica, and feeling like, wait a second, that's not what I just said, when her words are literally twisted and misinterpreted by the expert in the room, Veronica. Yeah, I felt that too. Here's a quick story. A psychiatrist I was seeing many, many years ago diagnosed me with ADHD, but totally missed the autism. During one of our sessions, I was describing to him an outburst I had, what I now know was an autistic meltdown. I didn't want to have them anymore, and I really, really wanted his help. So I explained the exhaustion, the guilt, the lack of control I felt in the moment, like my brain shut off the parts that keep you from going insane, and possibly breaking expensive equipment, like iPads and laptops. After listing it all out in every detail, I sat back and waited for his thoughts. Here was his brilliant response. Have you tried not doing that? What do you mean? I mean, have you tried just shutting up? Just shutting your mouth? Jeez, why hadn't I thought of that? Problem solved. I was honestly speechless. What am I paying you for right now? If it was as simple as shutting up, I would have already done it, you turd face. Obviously, I had already tried not to have meltdowns, but I was coming to this doctor for help, and he basically told me I just had anger management issues. Completely disregarded all the other symptoms I so clearly had at the time, and just told me to shut up. Now, I did use his advice for different situations where shutting up was doable and a great idea, but that doctor was so much like Veronica. You'll see what I mean when you read the book. Basically, Veronica embodies all terrible therapists. And so many times as I read, I turned to Debbie and said, did you read that? That's what happened to me. And I know a lot of people have commented on our videos and said, that's my experience. Chris, thank you for just saying what I feel and go through. I love those comments, and I feel lucky to share my experiences that resonate. But Steph, thank you for doing that for me. And it's not just the things I already mentioned. Steph also writes about the common co-occurring medical conditions that accompany autism, many of which I experienced but didn't even realize were real things. And yet suddenly, I now have a name for them. Things like pathological demand avoidance, alexithymia, misophonia, complex PTSD, all of these huge words for things that I didn't know existed, but I also experienced as an autistic adult. This book opened the door for so much new learning for me that I didn't even know I needed, but I really did. Autistic burnout was another one that I was really struggling with, but no one seemed to explain it in a way that I identified with until Steph. It's true what Steph writes. Being an autistic adult in today's world is complicated, unique, and challenging, especially with co-occurring conditions. But by understanding yourself better, it can get better. Steph's book is a great starting point if you're lost and confused as I was. Takeaway number 3. Autistic people need to understand their own unique needs and put themselves in the right environment with the right people. This point is especially true for high-masking autistic individuals who might require less support but still struggle. We need an environment that works for us. I'm not talking just about what we have at home with weighted blankets or space for our special interests or a job that doesn't require a stressful commute. It's proximity to nature, the noises of other people in the environment, the space in an office away from other people so the sudden peals of laughter or the dinging of the microwave don't make your brain explode. The sudden interruptions to our brains and schedule changes constantly, and the chaos of life as it is in many parts of the world today. I knew I needed a different environment than most people, but after reading this book, Steph gave me and all the autistic people permission to seek it out. Why? Well, without it, our periods of burnout and loss of skills continue. We can't rest and get to a more comfortable spot where our brains can be calm. We can't get the things we need so desperately as autistic people, and we can't function. So something that has struck me with autistic burnout versus other kinds of burnout, like job burnout, is that removing yourself from whatever it is doesn't cure it. Like for someone burned out at work, they could go on a vacation and rest and relaxed, and then they are ready to jump back into work. Not so with autistic people. No. Life is what burns us out. The daily struggles and the overwhelm and the people and everything about being part of a world that isn't designed with our needs in mind. So, taking a break or a vacation might be fine, but as soon as we get back to our daily life, the burnout comes back. Because our lifestyle is probably what burned us out in the first place. So we're just putting ourselves right back in there. But not many people talk about how we need to make sometimes drastic changes to accommodate ourselves. So as Steph reminds us, only by understanding what we each need can we improve our lives as autistic people. And that includes the right environment and people. We need to understand what we need and get it. We need to spend time on our special interests and prioritize our own brains. Spend time with the right people and not feel guilty about not spending time with other people who might be nice but aren't our people. Know that we might just need a few people or animals, and we're good to go. Takeaway number 4. Autistic people need to learn how to self-advocate, especially with therapists and doctors. Otherwise, it can be problematic or even cause trauma. Wow! Wow. Steph really nails it in this book when she says that autistic people need to know how to self-advocate, and she highlights it in so many different ways. First, her interactions with her satanic therapist, Veronica. And Steph's inner dialogue where she so accurately describes being misunderstood. Not because Steph is unclear, no, but because Veronica has her own idea of what is wrong with Steph, and Veronica definitely doesn't think autism is involved. Instead, she uses a judgmental tone, speaks down at Steph, and basically makes Steph feel like she knows nothing, which is ironic since you'd guess that Veronica might know what Steph's profession is. She's a therapist. She's a therapist, you turd. Ugh, Steph. I felt so much of your pain with Veronica. But what I really took away from this is what Steph says. Steph often didn't feel like she knew how to tell Veronica what the problem was from her point of view, or how to correct Veronica when Veronica went off in the wrong direction, which was basically every visit. Turd! And this is fundamentally wrong. A therapist should be there to support the person who is seeking help, and the same goes for doctors. I can't even guess at how many times I've gone to a doctor or therapist and described what is really happening and basically been looked at like I'm lying, or told that I'm wrong. Here's how a conversation with a doctor might go for me. Well, doc, it really feels like something is wrong when I want to go and throw the kid living above me out the window for walking too hard across the floor. No, I don't think he's wearing shoes. No, he's not running. No, my wife can't hear it. Wait, are you saying I'm imagining the sound? How about when I lose it over someone changing my schedule or randomly stopping by my office with a quick question? Oh, all of this is me overreacting. Oh, okay, I got you. I just need to calm down. Right. Stop being so dramatic. Perfect. Thanks. Wow, so glad I spent hundreds of dollars and multiple appointments for you to tell me that. Thank you. Something that connects with this is the strong possibility of misdiagnosis. For me, anxiety, depression, OCD, bipolar, all were diagnoses that I was given that weren't accurate. But what was the cost? Not only financial cost, but also the toll on my body, taking medicines that not only didn't help, but also caused me physical pain. Then getting off the medications when, oops, that wasn't quite right. Oops, that one wasn't either. Even when I'm sitting there with the doctor and saying, no, I don't actually do that. No, I don't do that one either. Oh, you still think it's the same exact diagnosis? That's weird. So for me, my autism diagnosis came at the end of a long string of other interactions with people who were supposed to help. Doctors, psychiatrists, therapists, and when I was younger, teachers. If I hadn't had support from my wife, Debbie, and also a growing sense that it was all wrong, I might not be here to tell you that I was autistic. And suddenly, it all made a lot more sense. As Steph says, autistic people need to learn how to self-advocate, especially with therapists and doctors. Otherwise, the outcome can be harmful. If you're in the same boat as I was, Steph's book can help give you more information, but also a pathway to start learning how to advocate for yourself. And I also have lots of videos on the way about that topic, so be sure to subscribe for more. Takeaway number 5. It takes a special kind of person to be an effective therapist for autistic individuals. The autistic experience is so complicated and diverse that it can be hard for non-autistic therapists to understand, although there are some that do. As Steph points out about herself as both someone autistic and as a therapist really needs to work to get to know the individual person. Labels and diagnosis only go so far. There's a real complicated, unique individual behind every one of those labels. I'm not going to go into all the details, but in the final sections of the book, Steph really lays out criteria you should be looking for if you choose to seek a therapist. And realistically, it's not only for autistic people. But just know, there are people who are excellent therapists. But there are also a lot of turds. large, wet, smelly, expensive turds. You need to find a good one, the right one. But if you're in therapy and second guessing how it feels, there's a chance you're with a Veronica. And that's not a place you want to be. So when you're ready, grab Steph's book and read to find out what you should look for, and more importantly, why you need to look for those key details in your therapist. Most of it comes back to caring about who you are as a unique autistic individual, because it takes a special kind of person to be an effective therapist for autistic individuals. But we deserve it, especially you. So thanks, Steph, for reminding us that those people do exist. So there you have it. 5 key takeaways from the book that saved my life. Literally, without the learning I got from this book, understanding my autistic brain in a way I was ready for at that particular very dark stage of my life, things could have gone very, very differently. So have you read Steph's book yet? If not, there's a link in the description to purchase it, or get it at your library or local bookstore. Also, do you have any suggestions of books you'd recommend? What did you learn from the book? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because I'm always looking for good reads. And as always, thanks for watching. So this was me before I got this book. When I first got diagnosed as autistic, yes, I'm doing this. But just know, there are people who are excellent therapists, but there are also a lot of total and complete turds. I just like doing that. I did it.